Okay, so welcome to this Pocket Garden 2024 Meet the Mentor session. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, it would be really appreciated if you could add your name and your school or nursery to the chat, just so we can see who's come along. So what are we going to cover in today's session? So today we're going to have a little bit of an overview of the Pocket Garden competition so that you're aware of all the bits and pieces that you need to do to take part. And then we're going to have our main part, which is meeting our amazing mentors. And as well as the mentors having a wee chat and sharing their stories, they're also going to offer you some fantastic top tips to help you with your growing for the Pocket Garden competition. And we'll finish up with a Q&A. So for all of our amazing educators, if you've got any questions about the competition or the wonderful advice that our mentors have, there'll be an opportunity at the end to have questions as well. So we'll start with just a wee overview of the Pocket Garden competition. So what is the Pocket Garden competition? It's a good place to start. So it's a competition for pupils aged from between 3 to 18 to design a small garden. So we'll go into a little bit more of the details as to what it involves, but it's about the size of a pallet. It's been run annually since 2016 and it's open to schools from all sectors. And we've got lots of guidance on to help you design, build and grow sustainably as part of the competition. And the prize for the design winners is that the winning entries will be shown nationally in an online showcase. And you can have a look on our web page. You'll be able to see some previous entries as well for inspiration. And we have a competition brochure, which an image of is shown here. And I'm just going to pop the link to our web page in the chat. So you can go onto our web page and download the competition brochure, which has lots of details. And also on there are some other bits of useful information and guidance that I'll touch on in a little bit. So it's a fantastic competition. So why take part? Big reason, it's fun. It's a really amazing, fun competition to take part in. It allows pupils to build skills for sustainable ways of doing things, particularly as there's a need for these skills as we kind of go through trying to become more environmentally friendly as a country. It's a great way to bring in conversations about big issues such as biodiversity loss, climate change and community, whilst also doing something active to really help with these issues. And there's also the potential to use new knowledge to improve other parts of your school grounds for learning, teaching and biodiversity. It really helps as well with opportunities to get kids outdoors to do more learning, which we're trying to really encourage. And also you can use it as part of your application for an EcoSchools Green Flag Award. So if you're applying for a Green Flag Award, you can use Pocket Garden as part of that. Oh, I can just see we've got one of our mentors, Jenny. You haven't got any sound yet. I'm just going to pop a wee note in for Jenny. Oh, that's fine, Kat. Sorry, Kat. Kat will be helping you. Sorry about that. So yeah, so it's really amazing reasons, lots of amazing reasons to take part. So how do you go about taking part? So one of the things that you need to weave into your design are our 3 interlinked themes. So each year we have a theme that changes annually. So this year's annual theme is Nature's Engineers. And we always have the 2 other themes, which is gardening for wildlife and growing food for people. So as you can imagine, there's some fantastic links between all of these themes. So if we think about gardening for wildlife to encourage pollinators, which then help with us growing our food. And we can think about things like our pollinators and how they are engineers in creating things like the honeycomb shapes that we see in bees' nests, sorry, beehives. So we think about particularly the Nature's Engineers theme, which is our theme for this year. So nature solves all the challenges of survival in lots of sustainable ways, thinking about the materials they use, really circular cycles of nutrients and balancing communities. So we've got lots to learn from them. So we can think about things, like I said, beehives, birds' nest, things that you see around that might be familiar, thinking about the materials that they use, how could pupils be inspired by those, or the shapes of their engineering, and including as well, so once you've got that engineering side, also think about how you can encourage wildlife within your design and how your design can incorporate growing food for people. So just a little bit more about that Nature's Engineers, just to give you a little bit more inspiration. So there are larger constructions as well as thinking about the small, like birds' nests and beehives. We've got things like these large constructions. So on the left, we've got amazing beaver dam. And then on the right there, we've got termite mounds, which are incredible cities that can cover miles. So there's some really exciting larger constructions. Or we can think about things like animals that create homes and completely change entire ecosystems. So things like the massive herds of wildebeest in Africa, or things that inspire design. So the picture on the right is something which is, so it's the burdock plant, which is native and common in Scotland. And if you look very closely at the burdock plant, if you can see it on your screen, you might notice that there's some little hooked ends. Does anybody know what that might have inspired? I see Kat's just helping as well a bit in the chat. Thank you, Kat. Ah, there we go. For straight on it. Brilliant. Velcro. Yeah, so these amazing little hooks create were the inspiration for Velcro. So thinking about things like that. So we do also have a Nature Engineer's Guide. Again, I'll mention all the useful links that we have later. And you can explore the stories more of these amazing species in the Nature Engineer's Guide to help you with inspiring your pupils. So how, again, once we've thought about the themes, let's think about the 5 principles that you need to follow as part of your design. So as well as having your 3 themes, you also should follow these 5 principles. So locally sourced, we want to include plants grown from seed at school or in local gardens, as many native plants as you can. Partly they really do grow well in Scotland, so they're a great choice anyway for things that are going to grow well. Also, we want to think of things that are seasonal. So the garden needs to be ready to be photographed around the end of May. So think about plants that flower or in leaf at that time of year and are edible to something. So encouraging wildlife, encouraging us. So again, we've got a top tips booklet that will help you that I'll mention again a little bit with this. Also think about waste reduction. So try and reuse things, containers, building materials, using compost. Also, reused materials can be a fantastic inspiration for your design. So we've had previous schools who've used things like a wheelbarrow as the basis for their design. So something that they just found that wasn't being used and they reused it and repurposed it. Also, your design should be organic. So this is a picnic for people and other creatures. So we don't want pesticides, fungicides and things like that being used. And also ethically sourced. So the garden should be peat-free. We encourage the use of peat-free compost. Any compost and mulches should ideally be locally made from recycled materials and plant matter. So you've got your 3 themes that you're incorporating into the design, or your pupils have, and then following these principles as well, and think about how you're going to manage that with your design. So how can you actually draw these designs? How do you submit these? So there's lots of different ways actually that pupils can create these designs and different formats they can submit them in. So they can be hand drawn. They can create collages. They can create computer generated images. They can create models, and even models of, you can see the bottom left, of just reusable materials and then notes on how they're going to do things. You can draw or use images of different angles. So you can do top down, kind of bird's eye view, or side on. You can show us, think about things like the back of the design. What's that going to look like? And you can also include notes on different objects and plants. And I realize also I should have mentioned, so the size wise, it's a palette. So it's about 100 by 120 centimeters is the maximum size. You can have it smaller than that if you want to, but about 100 to 120 centimeters is the maximum size. And let's say, so these some fantastic examples here. So just so I can tell you where they're from. So clockwise from top left, we've got Eagle Primary, then Families Growing Together Fife, Summerside Kindergarten, Seafield Primary, and Bankery Primary. So these are some fantastic designs, as you can see. And again, in formats, you can submit JPEGs, PDFs, TIFFs, PNG files, whatever kind of works for you. If you're not sure, you can just drop us an email. If you're not sure how to, in kind of the format for submitting. And also, don't forget that you can find links to previous year's gardens as well as last year's showcase on the Pocket Garden website. So if you want more inspiration or just to see some more of these design ideas and the ones that won, you're going to have a look on our Pocket Garden website, because there's lots of amazing inspiration there. So hopefully you can start to think about getting your design together. So when do we actually have to submit these for the competition? So there's two parts to Pocket Garden. The first part is the design competition, which is open now. So the deadline for submission of your design entries is Friday, the 23rd of February at 5 p.m. So you've got a good bit of time for your pupils to design some amazing things. But by 5 p.m. on Friday, the 23rd of February, you need to have submitted the designs for our judges to have a look at. And then the week beginning the 26th of February, so the next week, we'll have a look at the entries and judge them, and then the design competition winners will be announced. Then after that, so the next week onward, up until around about the 5th of June, build and grow your garden. Now that's for everybody who enters. You don't have to win the design competition to build and grow your garden. And we really encourage you to actually just grow and build your garden, even if you don't win the design competition, because it would be amazing to have as many gardens grown as possible. So then the second stage is the online showcase. And that this year will be taking place from the 14th to the 24th of June. So that's all of the design winners. They'll grow their gardens, and then images of those will be shown in the online showcase. And assistance from our amazing mentors is available for both phases as well. So you can get help from the mentors for help with design, especially if you're thinking maybe things like plant choices or how to incorporate the themes. They're fantastic and can help you with the design phase. And then obviously they've got an amazing amount of knowledge to help you with building and growing your gardens. So for a bit more information, if you need more information, you can go to the Pocket Garden website. Again, I'll just copy that into the chat again. So that's our Pocket Garden website, and on there you can, oh, Kat's getting ahead of me. Thanks, Kat. So on there you can download the brochure, which is the competition brochure, which explains all about what you need to do, includes the 5 elements, the 3 themes, and what you need to do to enter. You can also have a look at our Nature Engineers Guide. So that's available via a link on the webpage as well. And that just gives you a bit more information about following the theme. There's loads of fantastic links to inspiration. You can create some amazing lessons out of that. And then we've also this year got a top growing tips guide, which just helps you, again, think a bit about plant selection and also how to kind of get growing and make sure your gardens are looking the most beautiful they can when we get to the online showcase stage. And if you have any questions or queries at any point, you can email pocketgarden@keepscotlandbeautiful.org. Okay, so that's me hopefully introduced the Pocket Garden competition. If you have any questions, we're going to have a wee Q&A session in a little bit. So there'll be plenty of time for you to ask questions if there's not anything you're sure of the technicalities. But it's time to meet the mentors. So the mentors can support you to bring your children's ideas to life in the design phase, and can also then help with growing the gardens later on. And to get contact details, you can email us at oneplanetpicnic@keepscotlandbeautiful.org. And Pocket Garden mentors, they're generously volunteering their time. We've got a mix of fantastic professional people working in horticulture or sustainability, and some very experienced community growers who are part of It's Your Neighbourhood or the Beautiful Scotland groups. And particularly Jim and Wendy, who we've got today, they're part of the Beautiful Scotland Cove in Bloom group, and also volunteer for Keep Scotland Beautiful as assessors for our It's Your Neighbourhood initiative. So I will hand over to them in turn. So, so if I could ask Anthony, if you could, if you want to pop your camera on and your microphone, and share your amazing advice.
Yeah, so hello everybody. I'm Anthony. I work for a charity called Butterfly Conservation, but my previous background was with Bumblebee Conservation Trust. And so I've got quite a background with gardening for insects in mind. And so that's I suppose one of the ways that if you're inclined to have an insect friendly garden, you could come to me for some advice on the best plants to plant for that, especially some of the caterpillar food plants for butterflies and moths. And I know that whenever you get the advice on creating your garden design, there will be some resources sent to you from the Garden for Life forum, and that includes the best plants for bees and the best plants for butterflies and things. So that will already be online for everybody to read. So you don't need to come directly to me for that. But again, I'm happy to answer with happy to help with any particular plant queries. I'm based in Perthshire, up here in Glenlyon. So it's kind of out in the wilds, but we did have a school here before, and then Glenlyon Primary was one of the winners before, so I helped them. But I can also work roughly in the Stirling area too, and I might have a colleague who can help around Stirling and Perth, also with her expertise and things. And Nicola, I don't know if you wanted me to give any particular advice on people making their designs and any kind of things to avoid, if any pitfalls.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing.
Yes, so I've judged the gardens for many years now, at least I think 5 or 6. And so the process is that all the judges see printouts of the designs coming in, and we make a decision on which are the best designs. So what we're really looking for is a design that's clear. So, tiny little words that are hard to read, can just make it difficult for us to understand it sometimes. Make it clear how it hits the brief as well. So we've got a brief that it should have plants for wildlife, plants for humans that humans can eat, and also this year it's the things that Nicola was talking about. The kind of technology aspect of things. How the natural world has developed things that we can use. So try to make it clear how each plant or each aspect of your garden is hitting the brief, and that really just helps make it clear for the judges. And also just a further thing, that if you're part of, say, a class, and everybody in the class wants to submit their own design, so you might get 20 designs sent in. We prefer not to see that, just because we want it to be a collaboration where you've clearly worked together in a group, and the teacher has helped them as well. So nothing professionally done by the teacher. If it's too well done, we might know. So it can be well drawn, but make sure that there's evidence of the young people taking part in the design process too. That's important. But please don't, if your class has got 20 people in it, please don't send in 20 designs. We'd much rather have 3 good designs from all of that instead of 20 individual designs. I'll put it that way.
Thank you very much, Anthony. And actually, just to reiterate what Anthony said about the design, so like he says, it's really good to make sure everything's clear so we can really read, make sure we can actually read things. But also, don't worry about the quality of the images. We don't judge on the quality of the images or on the quality of, if you think about really young people's artwork, that's not what we're judging on. We're judging on how the design is and how the ideas that are there. So it's just that so as long as we can read those ideas, the actual quality of the image doesn't really matter. Oh, and
Yeah,
I've got a
and
great. Sorry, Indigo.
just on that as well, though, Nicola. So there's previous designs online, so you can go to previous years and you can see the design and how it actually turned out in real life. So it might give you some kind of flavor for how the designs can look, and it can also be useful if you write the story of how you involve the children in the design process. So what the children contributed, and even some photographs if you did any workshops with them. If you want to include some photos of the children taking part, that just helps us to be assured that it's a group effort from the class, and it's not just the kind of teacher doing it in their spare time at night, which is useful sometimes, but obviously we want to make sure that it's a real group effort. But I think, and I could see a comment coming in there from Frida.
Yeah, just asking about very reluctant writers and have ample voice. So yeah, absolutely, we would love to hear their
Yeah.
voices. So one thing you can do, we don't really put any barriers on how you want to submit the design. So in the terms of format, so if you wanted to submit like an image of the design, but also include video files or voice files, you could record their voices and submit that as part of the design. Just watch with file size. If you're not sure, if you think the files are quite big, just let us know, and we have ways to get the files to us, but just so they don't bounce back if you're not sure about how to submit bigger files. If you do want to actually include their voices or a kind of transcript, either one would be brilliant, because yeah, that's the bit we love actually, is hearing from the pupils, so that'd be amazing. Fabulous. Right, so I'm just going to swap over here, and so next we have Wendy. So I've got to find Wendy on my screen. There you are. So hi, Wendy, and it's Wendy and Jim together, isn't it? So I just need you to unmute yourselves, please, and if you could share your ideas, that would be amazing.
There. Now, does that work?
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Good. Okay. Well, you might have guessed from the Santa that's sitting beside me that Jim's been around doing gardening for quite an number of years. We've neither of us are professionals. We're both keen amateurs. And I think, as we said before, we're involved in running Cove in Bloom. We're also involved with the local It's Your Neighbourhood group called Cove Woodland Trust. And that's a very thriving and lively group. Bought about 16 acres of land from a local farmer, and we're trying to improve it and prepare it as a wild woodland available for the use of the residents, obviously, dog walkers, mums and kids, and so on and so forth. But it has to be nature friendly and wildlife friendly as well. So it's keeping a balance between those two things for that. So we've experience across the whole, what's the word I want? Tranche, that's a good one, of gardening. So if you've got something that you want to know a little bit about, I'm sure we can find an answer.
We do workshops for adults and children, and have done for the last 15 years.
Something like that.
Yes. We are also assessors for the It's Your Neighbourhood.
Yeah.
And we have entered pellet gardens ourselves in the
distant past.
Yes.
There was something else I was going to say. It came to me and then disappeared. Oh, I know what it was. No question is too silly to ask. Just remember that.
That's one of my favourite lines ever. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Wendy and Jim. I'm just going to turn the wee spotlight off. And then we have Jenny as well. So I'm just going to spotlight you there.
Hello.
Hello, Jenny.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, that's good. I'm sorry for initial hiccups.
Oh, no problem at all.
My laptop said it did, as often happens, it said it needed updating.
Oh.
Anyway, hello, everybody. I'm Jenny Mollison, and I've got an allotment in Musselburgh, which I've had for 30-something years, and I've also been secretary of something called the Scottish Allotment Garden Society, and for a number of years, and I was involved in the Garden for Life Forum, which is, so I got quite involved in all these pocket gardens and that kind of thing at that time. So I know some of the challenges, and in particular, getting things ready for quite an early date in the year. For myself, I love growing things from seed. I cannot tell you what an excitement I get from growing from seed. I have boxes of seeds. I collect seeds. I buy seeds. I have more seeds than I can possibly cope with, but I just find it such fun. So I'm more than happy to help people on their way with sowing seeds and growing from seed. Anthony and Wendy have both given their geographical location. Obviously, I'm in Musselburgh, which is on the south shores of the Forth, and I'm very happy to help people in person in the Central Belt, can travel. But I'm also very, very happy to answer phone calls, Zoom calls, anything. And like Wendy said, no question is too silly to ask. And very happy to get approached at any time to do this. So you'll have my details, and that's very happy to help on that score. For my part, this business of trying to get everything ready for the end of May, I do try and do that myself, and I sort of pride myself in having something to pick on my allotment all the year round. So I do sit there with packets of seeds thinking, gosh, I could plant that now, you know, and windowsills are full of this and that. So I'm with you all on that, and happy to share any experience I have with you.
I said, hurry back.
Anyway, look forward to hearing from people as we go along.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm just going to sort this bit. Okay, and one of our mentors unfortunately wasn't able to join us today, so that is Kath Lloyd, who is the Biodiversity Coordinator for the Tayside Biodiversity Partnership. Sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful. So Kath obviously is based around the Tayside area, but she did send us some interesting little bits for to share as with you. So in terms of this section, just talking about her favourite seasonal flower. So thinking about some of the flowers that you might include in your design. As Jenny mentioned, you know, thinking about getting things ready as well for that time of year. So thinking about anything that cheers up in the winter and early spring and helps pollinators in an emergency as like an early nectar source. So especially good if, you know, if we're thinking about things that might be growing, maybe not for your gardens in May, June, but also things that are just lovely to grow. So if we get a warm February, or even if we get snow in March, so bumblegreen queens can start to survive. Sorry, can starve if they emerge early and they've nothing to feed on. So some of her favourites are these ones that just come out at the right time to help them. So snowdrops and crocuses and winter aconites and muscari as their proper lifesavers. So there's her kind of favourite flowers, and she's available to help as well as a mentor. So the other thing that I was going to ask our fantastic mentors for was a top tip. So if you're planning on designing a garden or growing a garden, what would be your top tip? So I'll come back to you, Anthony. What would be your top tip?
I would advise everybody to look at previous entries, just as I mentioned earlier, like look at the website and see what worked at that time of year, because it's always taken at the same place at the same time of year. So see what was going on in other people's gardens. If you're growing anything from seed, as Jenny mentioned, just try and get it started probably sooner than what you would normally do, so long as you've got a way to keep it alive, because it's not very light at the moment. So if you've got like a little those little grow lights at home, they're very cheap to run. They're extremely cheap to run, like 1 or 2 pence a day. They run from LEDs. Those can give you really good plants ahead of everybody else, if that's what your goal is. And also beg, borrow and steal, you know, so get your local community involved. If there's some plants you want for your garden, put it out to a note to parents to say, look, we need some of these plants. And oftentimes you'll find people can just divide up their plants, and you've got a new plant for free for your garden, and it looks great. So yeah, put it out to the local community and kind of parent networks and grandparents and everybody else.
Brilliant, thank you. Fantastic tips there. And then Wendy and Jim, what would be your top tips?
Sorry for Jim's absence. He's
That's
just gone to check on the Scotch broth he's been making all day.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
See, he's quite a useful guy to have around. I would say top tip. Now I'm struggling with this one.
Be honest.
Be honest. No, the main thing to do is
for the competitor, be honest. You.
Be very careful how you choose your plants for when you're going to have them in flower or in bud or whatever you're wanting to get them level you want to get them at. It's very, very important that your garden is full of colour. If it's not going to be full of colour, it's not going to be effective. So look very, very carefully at the flowering times.
And again, that's something that our fantastic mentors can help with. So if you're new to gardening, you're a bit unsure, you can always let us know. We can put you in touch with our mentors about flowering times or recommendations if there's a kind of particular colour that the pupils are really interested in to go with their design. We can let you know which colour, which kind of plants to go for that time of year.
Can I just jump in on that as well?
Sure.
Just on that around color. Yeah, sometimes people Google like they want a blue effect to like create something that looks like the sea, for example. Most blue flowers won't flower until later in summer, so like cornflowers maybe won't flower until say July, August, and then your design just doesn't work. So I would really encourage people to not rely too heavily on a single color that they're determined to have to create a certain feature, because it can be difficult to achieve unless your color is green, like green leaves. That's about it. Maybe you can rely on that, or some of the really easy bedding plants which are very easily available, things like alyssum or things like that, which can flower early sometimes, but otherwise don't rely too much on a color for your whole design. Best to go with lots of different colors and achieve the look in other ways instead of relying on blocks of certain colors.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And oh, sorry, there we go. Jenny?
Yes. Well, building on what Anthony and Wendy have said, packets of seeds have an awful lot of information on them. Here's some packets of seeds. So just have a look at the packets of seeds. Now, this is one of my absolute favourites. This is poached eggplants, bright yellow, good for pollinators. It's an annual, it'll grow really quickly. And I'm just looking on the back of the packet, and it says that you can plant it, sow the seeds in March. And with any luck, within 12 weeks or a little bit less, with a fair wind, it will be flowering for you. I'm looking at a packet of radishes. Now, quick returns from radishes. Plant them. The packet says on the back they can be sown in March. So this is a good indication. You could do that then, and they will be ready 4 weeks after sowing. So actually, there'll be, well, the packet even tells me that there's 1,200 seeds in this packet. So in fact, all the children in the class could plant a little pinch of these at regular intervals, and with any luck, you'd be all ready for the final showing of your pocket garden. More rocket, another good one. The name tells you everything. Here, salad leaf rocket. Everybody loves a bit of rocket in their salad. And once again, plant it March, and it'll be ready in 8 weeks. And that's all on the back of the packet. So what I'm saying to people is, your seed packets have got a wealth of information on them, and just have a good read, because it tells you a lot about it. Okay, that's from me, but happy to talk people through anything like that. And salads aren't all dull. We're talking about colourful flowers and things, but actually, what better than some red lettuce? Good stuff, fills up the gaps, grows quickly. Once again, you can plant it March, April. Have some fun anyway.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really nice top tip there as well, isn't it? Is when you're thinking about colour, don't just think about flowers. Think about foliage as well. That's a really lovely thing to think about as well. If you're thinking about your colours, that you don't have to just get your colours from the flowers.
Some of the salad vegetables are very good at bulking up and filling up the gaps. One of the things that you don't want in your pocket garden is to have a lot of earth showing. You want it full of stuff, and salads and so on are pretty good at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kat's also just put a wee note as well for things like colour as well, adding in your reused items, so bunting, painted pots and rocks and signs and things. So, think about your reuse items as well for some of your colour. And we've had a question there from Fritha. So does starting to grow indoors on windowsills effectively speed up germination and growth time? And if so, do we need to consider the impact on timings? So one of our amazing mentors like to come back on that one.
can I come back on that one?
Absolutely.
We're approaching beginning of February. Many of the schools will be having a week, a few days off or a week off. Really, just time it, because if you've actually sown your seeds and you've got nobody to water them over that period, that's a bit of a problem. Just time it round this round that holiday week.
And yeah, it would speed up germination. And if you want to speed up germination, which I do, because sometimes, you know, if you've just put it in cold soil and keep it on a cold windowsill, it might sit there for 2 or 3 weeks and do nothing, and actually it might rot out. That's the worst of all worlds, whenever you sow it and you keep it in damp, cold soil, and then the seed just rots on you. So I would always recommend people try to speed up germination if they're doing it now. So yeah, put it on a warm windowsill, keep it somewhere warm. You can also get grow mats where it keeps it warm from underneath, or put them near radiators until the seeds pop out, until they grow. And then after that, they can survive a bit colder conditions. But once you have germinated them, you need to keep them alive. So if they aren't in a bright place, the last thing you want, if you've only got like a north-facing window, and that's maybe not a great idea, because they're not going to get enough light and they'll get extremely leggy and then they'll fall over and die. So yeah, try and get them a sunny windowsill to live on, because you don't want them getting too leggy and too weak, especially with little sunlight at this time of year.
And Jenny, did you have something else to add as well?
Yes, it's quite useful if you've bought a bag of compost to sow your seeds in. If you can manage to bring that inside, it will get just a wee bit warm, and will help the seeds get off to a good start.
Brilliant, thank you. And just from saying as well, if you're thinking about timings, so for example, Jenny, you had the timings on the back of the packets there. So I think was the rocket was maybe 8 weeks. So is that likely to shorten that time that it's then going to be ready if you're kind of planning ahead and thinking maybe it's going to take a couple months? Would it be a bit shorter if you started them inside?
Well, they might get off to a cracking start. My feeling always with these things is don't plant all your seeds at once. Some 1 week, some the next, and even the very best gardens will have failures. It's sometimes for unknown reasons things don't flourish and you have to resow. So save some back, and little pinch from time to time of these seeds in whatever container you're growing them in, and then with luck and a fair wind you'll have some good things ready for the judging of the pocket gardens.
Yeah, and just thinking about if you win the design competition, you go through to the online showcase and you're thinking about all these kind of timings and things. Don't forget as well, like Jenny said, often things go wrong in gardening for no apparent reason, or maybe you can also think about the reasons, and it's a great learning opportunity for your pupils. So maybe trying to investigate, again, our mentors can help you. Maybe if you do have a problem or a failure, that they can maybe help you to figure out why, and then your pupils can understand more about learning and growing, because that's mainly what the Pocket Garden competition is for. It's obviously it's a competition, but also it's there for pupils to learn, and trial and error and seeing what works and what doesn't quite work. It's such a great opportunity for learning. So if something goes a bit wrong, maybe actually investigate, figure out what did go wrong, why are these plants not doing as well as they could have done, and what could we do maybe differently to then grow another batch and get them ready. And that can be a fantastic part of the story of your garden as well, because when if you have a look on the website and you have a look at the previous showcases, it's not just about the images of the garden, it's also about the story of the garden. So the learning story is one of the things that I really look forward to seeing as well when we get our entries in.
And maybe Nicola, just to say as well, not everything's about flowering too. So when we're judging the designs, when we're judging the actual built gardens, so after you've built them and all the rest, we get the photographs in. People should also aim to grow things that won't necessarily be ready to harvest by then, but we'll be able to still interpret that. So you might still have your pea shoots growing and they might not have any flowers on them by that time, but we know what a pea shoot looks like, so we can see that garden has peas in it. Same for tatties, we'll recognize the tatty leaves, dead easy to grow as well. So people can include stuff like that in their design, because we will understand that they are growing that and it won't be ready to harvest until late summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as an extra wee top tip as well, so Kath sent in her top tip. So it's, I'm just going to read it out. So don't be too hasty in clearing away stems and old plant growth during the winter. So many beneficial insects hibernate in the stems or dead leaves, and it's great to leave them until spring warms everything up and they can move on to the next stage in life. And then you can tidy up the garden a bit. So also think about how you can maybe incorporate some of these things like dead stems and leaves and things as great places as habitats for particularly insects, but also other wildlife as well, if you can incorporate them into. And some plants, you know, the kind of actual dead stems look beautiful. Things like angelica and fennel look amazing. So maybe think about, you know, how you can incorporate some of that as well into your garden. And also just, she said that also don't forget you can download a Making Way for Nature booklet from Tayside Biodiversity. I'm just going to again copy that link in. It's just a bit more information as well about supporting biodiversity that you might want to include, pupils might want to include in their designs. So does anybody have any questions? We've got a fantastic question there that we've had from Fritha. Does anybody else have any other questions for our mentors at all? Or if you've got any questions in particular about the competition and how it runs, or the kind of technicalities of submitting designs as well, any questions at all? See, we've just got a bit of typing, so I'm just going to wait. Oh, and yeah, Kat's just reminding us again that there's a gallery of past entries. And actually, what I can do, just if anybody is wanting to ask a question, just typing it in. Just going to share. This is going to come back to the first slide, but I'll skip it through. Is I just also had, just so you can see, a couple of inspirational gardens from last year. So on the left, we've got St Andrews Primary School, and they won the best One Planet Picnic last year. And then on the right, we've got Bankery Academy. They won the best wildlife garden, just so you can see a couple of other lovely images. And like Kat says, there's so much inspiration from previous winners. There's some incredible gardens there with amazing stories behind them. So much love, and what Anthony mentioned about community involvement as well. There's a lot of that in the story, so do go and have a look. It's a really wonderful place, even just to pass if you want a cup of tea and something nice to look at. The showcases are amazing to look at. So if nobody has any other questions, I just, oh, there we go. Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Shan. So yeah, if nobody has any other questions, just like to say a massive thank you to our mentors again for coming here and giving their information. Please do go and have a look at our website. And we also can't wait to start seeing your entries coming in. And if you do want some help from the mentors, please do email us oneplanetpicnic@keepscotlandbeautiful.org. And let us know. So thank you so much, mentors, for coming today. Yeah, hopefully we've inspired some amazing gardens. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
I look forward to hearing from the children.
Absolutely.